Hey everybody, this assignment is going to be sketching on plain paper. So we're going to start, here's our assignment, I'm going to lay it up to the side for a minute. We're going to start with a plain sheet of paper. So the first thing that we've got to do when we've got a plain sheet of paper is we need to put a border on our page. If you notice this drawing here, this outside line here represents the paper itself. So this line here, on every one of the drawings we're going to do, this outside line just represents the edge of the paper. Because remember, this is a smaller image than this. So this is the same as this. Okay, it's the edge of the paper. The next line in here is our border. In every drawing, we'll have a border. On this drawing, we actually draw completely out to the border. If we look at the next drawing down, if you notice, we've got the edge of the paper again, we've got our border, but then we've got our object inside of it. So just be aware of that. Okay, so the first thing we've got to do is get our border in the right place. And if you remember, when we draw, we talk about maintaining proportion. So if this is a full-size sheet of paper, and of course now it's shrunk down, how far in is this? Well, it looks like it's about, I don't know, half of an inch or so. So what we need to do is we need to be able to gauge that and be consistent with it as we do it. So we're going to use our friend the Trammel again. So remember, get your plain piece of paper, tear you off a corner, because the key is we need a square edge to work off of. And now we're going to gauge how far in we want to be. So we said about a half of an inch. Well, we're just going to guesstimate it the first time. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to put a real, I'm going to make it dark here just so you can see it. But you should mark this really light the first time. So there's my estimate for how far in I want my border to be. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my Trammel down lined up exactly with the edge of the paper. And I'm going to mark that distance. I'm going to transfer it over. So there we go. So now I can come down through here, and as long as I stay lined up with the edge of my paper, and again, I would do really light marks if I were you doing this. I'm going to do dark marks just so you can see them. And I would put 3 or 4 down through here. Okay, so there's that side. I'm going to move this out of the way again. And now I'm going to turn it this direction. I'm going to do the very same thing. I'm going to line up with the edge of my paper. Put me a mark. And like I said, at least 3 or 4 marks. The more marks you put, the more apt you are at getting it exactly right. Okay? And do the same thing with this edge of the paper. Notice this time I turned it around and I'm lining the mark up with the edge of the paper now. You could turn it the other direction and do the very same thing. And of course the bottom of the paper. This is the easiest one because I can see it. Now you're able to turn your paper as you're doing this. If you notice, I keep my paper that I'm drawing on stationary. That's so you can see it. And the camera has got it in complete view. I would normally be turning my paper as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so there's my border. So now, of course, I'm going to go back in. And you may want another one on down here at the bottom. But I'm going to lightly go up through here, and I'm always going to be looking at the mark above that I'm going to. Okay? And I'll come back later and darken this in. See there, I got a little wobble in it now, so that's the reason why you want to keep these light. Okay, and then my 2 across. And these are really hard for me to get right because I'm looking over the top of my hand. This is where more marks would have really made it easier. So my messing up is showing you what can happen if you don't put enough marks. Okay, so now like I said, I'm going to go ahead and darken this border in so y'all will be able to see it better. Remember, we don't use our wrist when we draw. We use our arm from the shoulder and the elbow. Again, this is the hardest one for me to get right because of the way I'm looking through my hand. Okay, so there's just a border all the way around the page. Now what we need to do is we need to find the center so we can get our marks in the middle. Now how can we do that? Well, again, we can estimate the center point, but I'll tell you the easiest thing to do is to use another whole sheet of paper. And I even sometimes will use two to do this. So what we can do is we can take a couple pieces of paper and line them up. So as you see what I've done, I've just extended it that way. Now I can go corner to corner on my border. And I'm going to estimate about the center of my drawing. So I'm going to put me a little light X right there. Okay? And I know that's really, really light. It's probably hard for y'all to see. But it's there. Here, I'll try to make it just a little bit darker for you so you can see it. I'll end up erasing this out. Okay? And I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to line up corner to corner. And right there where the two cross, that's the center of my paper. So now if you notice, I'm going to erase down and just leave that little bitty X there, okay? So now I need to have a horizontal and a vertical through that. Well, this is real simple. All I have to do is take me a piece of paper, line up with that, and you could fold this paper a couple of times to get it good and strong if you wanted to. We're not supposed to be using rulers or anything to do this. It's supposed to be drawn with just paper and pencil. So there's my first pass down that piece of paper. And of course that line is really nice and straight. Now I'm going to darken this line in because on my drawing, when you look at the first drawing that we're going to be doing, which is just the horizontal, vertical, and angled lines, the center line is darkened in. Now I'm going to do the very same thing this way, right through the center of that X again. And again, if you double the paper up a couple of times, it'll be easier to do this because you'll have a thicker edge to draw by. Okay, so there's my horizontal. So again, I'm going to go back over this. Okay, so there's my 4 quadrants that I need to draw on. So as you can see, we've got that. There it is on the paper. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to lay out how many lines there are down through here. And if you notice, not counting the outside border or the middle, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? The great part about that is with 7, that's an odd number. That means there's one line dead center. So again, we could use a Trammel or something like that. And this is where you have to use a little bit of detective work. So what I do is I take me a Trammel. If you notice, see how long it is? So I'm going to put the edge of my paper and line up with my border right there. So now I'll take my paper and fold it over. And right there, in that crease, is dead center. So now when I lay it back down on my paper, I can mark dead center. And I can come over here on my center line and do the very same thing. I can mark dead center. I may have to back up just a little bit. Okay? So I know that I've got a line that's going to run right through there. So again, I could use the edge of a piece of paper to draw this with, or I can just hope to goodness. Now this is the trick. You want to keep it nice and straight. Look at there. I got pretty lucky on that one. Okay? So I know that I've got a line, because it's an odd number, I've got a line running right down the middle of that. Okay? So now, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's that line right there. So I've got 1, 2, 3 lines above, 1, 2, 3 lines below, right? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. So I can take, if I've got 4 sections, fold that in half. Okay. So what I've done now, because I've got these 4 sections, I've got another line, again, dead center. And dead center. This is kind of like detective work. Okay, so you're solving a puzzle. That's part of what drafting and engineering is. If somebody has a problem and you're solving a puzzle for them. So now I've got that line and that line. Now I need the other 2. So again, all I need to do is fold it in half one more time. A little harder to see this time because I didn't mark that one. So let me mark that for you. So there we go. Now fold the paper over in half again, right on that mark. And now there's my dead center on that. So see, I halved from here to the edge, and that gave me that. Then I halved from here to the edge, and that gave me that. And then I halved from here to the edge, and that gave me that. So now I come back up again, put me a mark here, and look how fast this goes. Put me a mark here, put me a mark here, and put me a mark here. And then do the exact same thing out here on this end. And then I can just connect them. The key, of course, is keeping them straight. So what happens if you get a little bump like that? Well, there's one we're going to erase. And then we'll draw back over and redraw the entire line. And if we redraw the entire line, it won't look as bad. Okay? So again, how many lines were we supposed to have in that block? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. There's our lines. That worked out pretty neat, didn't it? So what do we do? You know, we've got here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Again, an odd number, so we can do our dividing and all that good stuff, put one in the middle and work out from it. That works pretty good. But what about these angled lines down here? Whew, that's a mess. Well, the good part about it is, and we want them to look just like it does here. If you notice, these lines here do not line up. And that's how we want to draw them. And if you notice here, they don't hit. That one gets really close to that end point. And this one gets fairly close to that end point. This one hits almost dead in the corner, so we could sort of use that. Now, how far back from that? So we have to trace that up. If we follow it up, there's a little less than 1 between them, and these need to be parallel. So this is coming up through here. So we've got one mark right about there. We've got another mark, let's say right about there. So now, there's our point of reference. Again, we could use our Dremel and lay it down, if we've got a long enough piece of paper. Lay it down here, and lay it down here in the corner, and draw our first line using the edge of the paper. Again, this is where I would double the paper up a couple of times. It keeps you from giving you all those little jogs and stuff, okay? So now I can come back in and darken this in. Okay, so there's my first line. So now I've got something to work off of. Well, now the key to it is I want to get the rest of them in here. And I need to figure out about how far apart I want those lines. So we want to be perpendicular to these lines. Well, how in the world do we get perpendicular? Remember, perpendicular means or we're going to measure perpendicular, we're going to draw parallel. So I want every line to be exactly on the same angle. Well, what I can do is I can take this piece of paper, and I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to line up with this corner, even though we don't really draw out of this corner. I'm going to come up here and line up with this corner. I'm going to line up with my line, and now I'm going to draw me a really nice faint line down there. Now I'm going to draw this dark for you so you can see it. This line will not be dark on your page. Okay, remember, do not make this line dark on your page. Okay, so now I'm going to slide down, line back up with that line that I just drew, and I'm going to finish drawing it on down through here. So now this line runs 90 degrees. So we can put the little 90-degree symbol right there. It runs 90 degrees with the line that we want. So now we can go, okay, how many marks do I have? I've drawn that line there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that fifth one falls right about there, give or take. Okay, so if there's 5, well, guess what? We could, again, do our halfway point. We can say that that line's going to hit right about there. Put us a mark. And we've got the edge of the paper. Fold over to it. So there's our first one. Okay. Now, what we can do while we're here, we can slide down along the line and transfer some measurements. And you say, well, Mr. Atkins, why do I have to go to this much trouble just to sketch a line? Well, if you're wanting really, really, really neat, fancy sketches, this is what you would do. We could do this real quick, and it would look kind of messy and stuff like that. It just wouldn't be, pretty, for lack of a better word. Okay? So now I can come in here and I can lay this line in here fairly light to start with, like we talked about. Okay? So what have I done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, and there's 2 above it. That's that line right there. Okay? Now, fold it over again. Okay? And right there's that mark where I folded it. So now I can lay this down here, put me a mark dead on the middle, and again I can slide down my line. Of course, these lines get a little longer as we go because we're getting further away from the edge. So there we go. I'm going to put an extra mark up here just so it looks a little bit better. Okay. So now that line's going to go right here. Okay. And again, I can come in and darken this one in. Oh my, I have made a mistake right there. There's 2 marks between there. So that's not going to work. So I'm going to have to erase that. What I needed, look, I've got 2 lines in here. I don't just have one. So what I've got to do now is I've got to change this, and I've got to fold this into thirds. Now that's really a trick. So what I do is I sort of gauge about a third of it, and then I fold it back on myself. I know this is hard for you to see. I'm just sort of looking at my paper that I've got turned up and then the paper that I've got folded over. Now if I turn it back on itself, now let's unfold it. So I've got a crease here, and I've got a crease here. So you see, that's what's going to happen to you if you're not careful. You will have some mistakes. So now I've got a mark there and a mark there. Oh man, this looks a whole lot better. A mark there and a mark there. Slide on down here, a mark there and a mark there. So see, even if you do mess up, what you do in a case like that is just go ahead and erase and put it back. It's no problem. Mark there and a mark there. That's one reason why you always want to draw lightly to start with, or sketch lightly to start with, and then darken in afterwards. So basically you're drawing twice, but by doing that, if you mess up, it's easier to erase it and put it back. Now let's come up here and see if this works in our upper spot. And it should work just fine. And if you come up short, so look at mine. Mine's just a little bit short, so I'm going to sort of center between them. And get me a spacing. And this one I'm going to watch this line here. Watch what I'm going to do here. I'm not putting more marks. I'm just going to stay the same distance away from that mark all the way across. So I'm watching the line beside it. Okay? So there we go. Now that line there, that's the one that I erased. And that's the one that's kind of making it hard to look at. But the minute that we darken in, this is why you draw light to start with. The minute that we darken in, that one that we erased, and even though it's still there and isn't real pretty, it sort of fades into the background. See what I'm talking about? Now, how do we keep going down here? Well, our spacing should be about the same, give or take, down through here. So we will be able to put 3 more down here. 1, 2, 3. Slide down. Put 1 here. Put 1 here, just about at the dead end. Now, what do we do for the rest of that corner? Well, we can do the exact same thing. We can come back with our paper and line up here. And line up here, because this is a 90-degree corner, so it works really well for us. And we can draw us another line right down through here. And again, I'm drawing this dark so y'all can see it. I would draw this really light, okay? So what I would want to do here is I would want to go ahead and draw this last line in. I'd want to get it in the right place, okay? So we would go ahead and put more marks. And I'm going to go ahead and do that up through here. I'm just going to hover off my distance. Okay. Slide on up here and get another couple. Notice I'm doing 2 at a time this time. Really long lines, really long dashes. And I can go all the way to the very end right here, and that's going to be tough to get. So I'm going to go ahead and do half my line here. Okay. And now I need to come the other way. Well, guess what? Could we possibly do this? Could we use this edge of the paper to line up right there? Sure. That's using paper, right? And do the same thing down here on this one. That's why I said, if you can come up with a way to do it without using a ruler, without using another straight edge other than a piece of paper, I don't have a problem with that, okay? I've even seen students do this now. They've got a line drawn and they go, you know what? Right there, I'm staying the same distance away from that line above it. So I'm just going to draw it like this using the edge of the paper now. How about that? And then doing the same thing here. Now again, you got to make sure you don't have a bigger gap here than you do here. So we want to look at the line all the way across. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're off that line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see if we can get one more in there. So let's turn back over to our line. Right in there somewhere. And again, we would maintain our same distance across here. And there we go. Now look, we could get another one down in here. So we ended up with our spacing not quite right. That's one of those things that you've really got to be careful with. Because you want to try to get the exact same number of lines in here that's on the page, okay? So when you look at this, let me slide this down here in the window. So we worked off of that line there because it came to the corner. So from that line over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Going this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The little mark up in the corner. So I ended up, because I was working pretty fast, leaving a little space down here that's a little bit too big. You really don't want to do that if you can help it, okay? So I want you to work at it really hard. And look here what I'm going to do. I'm going to slide this one over. I'm going to slide this one over a little bit. And I'm going to come back and get rid of my light guidelines that I had drawn. And look, now I've got the right number of marks, and it doesn't look as bad, okay? So you're going to do the very same thing for this window here. And of course, the horizontals are the verticals are pretty simple, okay? So that's how we do those sketches on that. Pretty straightforward. Now, and I know this is a long video, but I want to show you one more technique. The good part about it is you can always stop the video and come back to it. You can take a break if you want to, okay? So this one is pretty straightforward. So again, we're going to draw our border using our Dremel. We've got another rectangle in here. Now once you draw this rectangle and get it laid out the size you want, and of course again you can use the middle of the page to lay that out by, you can just keep an eye on this and watch all the way around. So if I've got a line, what I mean by that, I'm going to draw you a line right here. We'll fold this paper in half so I've got a thicker edge to work with. Okay? Slide this up into the view so you can see it. So now, what I'm working on is I'm working on this upper line here. So let's pretend like I've already got my border drawn. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay out my rectangle and where it needs to be. So again, I would take a couple of pieces of paper. And I would do this to my border, not to the edge of the paper. If your border is perfect, the edge of the paper would work if it's perfect. Okay? And sketching, we know, is not completely perfect, but we do want it as close as possible. Okay, so there we go. So again, I'm going to make me a mark down through the middle here so y'all can see it. I'm going to rotate. Need to rotate it just a little bit more. And this is time consuming. That's the reason why you're only going to have 4 drawings this week. Okay. So right there's the center of my edge of my paper. So again, what I would do now is I would take me a piece of paper. I would lay it down right here in the middle to center up. I would draw this really light. Because all this is layout lines. They're not actually part of the drawing this time. I would go left to right and do the exact same thing. I've had a lot of practice, y'all, doing this along the edge of a thin piece of paper. It may be hard for y'all. You may want to double your paper up. Okay? So there's me a layout. So now what am I doing? Well, I've got to draw a rectangle. Okay? So when I do that rectangle again, I'm going to come off the distance that I want and just guesstimate where it is. So if I look at it, I go, you know, the center of that is right about there. So I want to be almost, see, a little more than half. The distance from here to here is a little more than half. So I'm looking at it, and let's say my border lays right there. So half would be about right there. So I want to go up about that far and put me a mark. And I would come the same distance down. That's where I could use a Dremel. Now over this way, I'm the same distance off the border. So I could even do this. So if my border was here and here, and let's say here, okay? And what I could do, once I lay that first mark out, is I could measure from my border end. Turn it this way. Turn it this way. And turn it this way. So there's how big my rectangle is going to be. And I'm really going to rough this in, okay? I'm going to do this quick so y'all can see it. Y'all need to have good straight lines. You could put more marks, which you need to. Okay? And then, of course, vertical is this way. So there is my light plate cover, the outside edge of it. And let's pull it on down here so you can see it. So what I just drew was this outer edge right here. Okay? Now, the inner edge of it is just a little bit in. So I'm going to come in and say it's about that far in. Now again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow my line and I'm going to stay about that same distance all the way around. We could use a Trammel for this. But if you're really, really, really careful, you can do it without using a Trammel. Okay? If you notice, I'm lightly sketching. This time I'm not darkening in as much as I did on the other drawing. The reason why, this is the way that I always sketch to start with. I always sketch really light, and then I go back over the top and I sketch dark. If any of y'all have had art, your art teacher has probably shown you techniques similar to this. Okay? So there we go. There's that inner line. Now, notice we've got corners going to here, and to here, and to here, and to here. So then the next thing we want to do is we want to locate where those holes are. They're evenly spaced, so there's that one. It's about 1/3 of the way out, so this line is going to fall somewhere. I'm going to find my spot, and let's say it's somewhere right in here. Okay? So again, I would use my Trammel to transfer that distance. Over to here. Okay, so this is going to be my center point. This is going to be my center line. And of course, that's going to be a center line. So now I can draw these, and I want to get about where my circles are going to be. They all need to be the same height above, and they all need to be the same height below. So again, I could measure and transfer. The key to drafting is consistency. Remember, clarity, proportion, okay? And so clarity, proportion, consistency, all those things are important. And then I can do my circles using my Trammel, lay out my rectangles. Notice they're longer. Let me slide this down. They're longer this way than they are this way. So make sure you get them to where they look like you want them. You don't want to come in here and make these as, you know, out here like this and then up and it's got an angled line like that or something like that. We want them nice and pretty. You know, we want a good straight line at the top, a good straight line at the bottom, same distance away, and then a good straight line to the left and a good straight line to the right. Okay? So that's what we're after, something like that. And then, like I said, use a Trammel to do your circle with. So you want these center lines out far enough that you can do your circle and use your Trammel there. Okay? Now, I'm not going to show you the last two about how to do them, but what I do want to show you is if you notice here, there are directions for assignment 1. If you will follow exactly what it says, you'll get it right. Same thing here. Notice there's more directions because there's more detail. If you'll follow these directions exactly the way they are, you notice it says that these corners are cut at approximately 45 degrees. And it tells you here, I would lay out the 3 holes for the switches next. Make sure that they are the proper size for the plate. So the 3 holes let's talk about are the rectangular holes, okay? So follow those directions. When we get to this one, when you draw this out, one of the first things you're going to want to do is start with a light rectangle. So on our paper, what we would have sketched out is a rectangle. And it would be light. Okay? So it would be nice and light that way. And then notice what it says. The stamping, being careful to maintain proportion right there. There's that word, those phrases in again, maintain proportion. Draw a light rectangle the entire size of the object. We will round off the left corners and cut the angles on the right side later. So you've got to read these directions. If you notice, it tells you right down here, the circles on the left share their center points with the arcs either above or below them. So this circle has the same center point as that arc. This circle has the same center point as that arc. Anytime a circle and an arc or multiple circles share a center point, that's called concentric. This is usually a test question. Okay? So you're going to use a Dremel and lay these out. But if you will follow these directions, and I know they're long, but what you can do is you can break them down into parts. Do the rectangle first. So our first assignment goes to right there. Now locate the center lines for all the circles and arcs, all of them. Okay? Notice our center lines. Remember, a center line is a long dash, short dash, long dash configuration. So notice, long, short, long, short, long. Long, short, long. Long, short, long. Long, short, long, short, long, short, long. Notice there's always a little short mark in both directions at the center point. Okay? You can draw those in if you want. That's really not a bad idea. But yeah, if you'll break these down into little bitty chunks, it's easier to complete the drawing. Okay? Don't forget your border. Don't forget to draw your border. Okay? Nice drawing. Draw everything lightly, then darken in the parts you want to keep, including the center lines. Okay? And then the last one, again, if you'll take this entire direction and break it down into parts, read through it, then go back through it and break it down into parts. Excuse me. So when we get done, if you notice, if this was completed, it would be fully rounded. Okay? Excuse me. So, using this method, work your way through it. Okay? So there's your lesson for this week. We've got 4 drawings that we've got to do. 1, 2, 3, 4. When it comes time to grade these, what I want you to do is lay them out side by side. So you're going to have, now I'm going to make 4 little pieces of paper for us. So when it comes time to grade it, what you're going to do is you're going to have 4 pieces of paper, full sheets, and you're going to lay them out and take a picture of all 4 sheets at one time. So these little pieces of paper that I'm getting ready to show you represent those 4 pieces of paper. And this is, of course, the very same thing you've done on the last assignment. So I'm going to have 1 sheet laying there, 1 sheet laying there, 1 sheet laying there, and 1 sheet laying there. And now I'm going to take a picture of all 4 of them, and I want it to be parallel with it, as close as you can get so I can see all of them. That way I can zoom in or zoom out and see what I need to see. And that'll be your PDF file that you'll turn in. So you'll have 1 drawing, 2 drawings, 3 drawings, 4 drawings for me to grade. Okay? If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Have a great day.